Hello and welcome to another Sideways Cinema podcast. I'll start with Ocean's 8 because it's just...
I'll ask you, I haven't seen it. It's only been out a day, so well done for seeing it.
Thank you.
I
wish I hadn't, to be fair, because it's abysmal.
Right,
It's
wow.
really bad.
Yeah.
There's no point in explaining the plot because there doesn't really seem to be one, to be fair.
Does it draw on? Is there any relation to the other ones? So, like,
Yeah,
I
well-
personally will say I quite like the other ones. I don't, although Ocean's 12 was rubbish. Apart from the bit where he dances around the lights, quite like that bit.
How did you get by the laser field in the Great Hall?
Aha. The laser fields.
There's nothing wrong with Oceans 11, 12 and 13. 13 was just kind of 11, I guess. Again.
Yeah, with Al Pacino thrown in there.
I mean, there's only so much you can do, really, with these kind of heist films in casinos, but...
I'd say Ocean's 11 is like the pinnacle Soderbergh film.
Yeah.
I mean, because Traffic, obviously, is a great film.
Yeah.
And then there's a Hollywood, like, tentpole kind of film, if you want to call it that, with a big all-star cast. Ocean's 11 did the business, like, commercially and critically did the business. Great cast, well put together, good soundtrack, everything about it
Well
was
scripted,
good.
well delivered.
Great heist film, yeah, exactly. Ocean's 12 was more Soderbergh-esque, I'd say. It was more of a kind of like, because that's what he wanted to do, isn't it? He wanted to do basically an art house French film, so that's what he did.
People fall over because he did the worst, cameo ever, and then.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this the other day. The Julia Roberts thing. That was a complete joke.
Yeah, that's what
Oh yeah, that did ruin the film. Fair point.
It pulled it down.
Even that is probably infinitely more interesting than anything that happens, or like a talking point, anything that happens in Ocean's 8, because it's just like...
I mean, talk us through it. Like, obviously a lot of people won't know, because a lot of people...
I don't. I would go in there thinking, so I'm just watching... Essentially, because they're all-star casts, aren't they? They're ensemble, massive all-star cast.
Yeah.
I'd go as far to say that Ocean's 11 probably utilises like big stars the best, like in terms of like doesn't make anybody feel left out. They all mesh well together, and you go, yep, everybody in that film is great. It's not just a 10-minute bit by Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
It's like he's in it all the time, and it works. So I would have thought going to see Ocean's 8, they're just trying to repeat that formula with Ocean's 11.
And that'll be fine, because you look at the cast, like you say, and you think, well, that's an impressive cast.
Yeah.
So you're almost expecting them to all have the screen time and all have something to do.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to happen. Kate Blanchett is introduced into the team, and she's watering down vodka. And it's like, okay, fair enough. She's watering down vodka and selling knockoff vodka and all this kind of thing. And then Rihanna is... I can't even remember what they're doing, to be honest.
She's a hacker in it, isn't she?
Yeah, and Sarah Paulson, who is like a great actress.
The mum.
Completely
She's just like a
she's the
stay-at-home
mum, and
mum or whatever,
she obviously knows Bullock.
But that's the thing, like, you want to see with all these characters a slight kind of change, surely. Like, even if it's, I'm not satisfied, I love looking after my kids, but I'm not satisfied just staying at home all day. And then by the end, it's like, oh, I stay at home with my kids, but also I'm like a master criminal, part of like a gang.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like, that's fine for a little arc for a secondary character. But I didn't pick up on that. The problem was, and this spoiler alert, at the end they're all on the subway, aren't they? And by the way, some of the editing in this film is like obviously trying to ape the Ocean's films and failing, just like the soundtrack's trying to ape David Holmes, and it's not David Holmes, and it fails for the most part. But at the end, they're all on the subway, and it literally feels like it was edited on Windows Movie Maker. They'll focus on one character and they do a spin-out box type thing.
I think Windows Movie Maker might have made it look actually half decent.
Yeah, it's supposed to be showing all these characters having got all this money.
They walk off, don't they? But they don't. It doesn't show you what they're doing.
It's a great shot, isn't it? It's them all looking at the fountain with Claude Debussy in the background.
Yeah, but then of course he goes and picks up her, doesn't he? At the end.
Yeah, but that's his story and that's fine. But he tried to do a similar thing in this. It's Sandra Bullock, isn't it?
Sandra Bullock.
So it's just Sandra Bullock, or has she got a...
Kate Blanchett is kind of...
she's kind of a Pitt character, but not really. But the problem is, like, obviously, if more people listen to this podcast, we'd probably come under criticism because, obviously, failing to mention it, it's an all-female cast. So to say, oh, well, Sandra Bullock is a George Clooney character, and Kate Blanchett is a Brad Pitt character, maybe that's not what we should be saying.
But
they've walked into that trap.
But yeah, however, it is completely necessary.
Well,
because the
they've literally
characters are
called it
just poorly
Ocean's
written.
8, and they've made Sandra Bullock is Danny Ocean's kid sister. Oh, and they killed
right.
Danny Ocean off at the
Oh,
beginning
yeah.
as well.
Oh,
Off
do
screen.
they?
Yeah, they just basically say he's dead.
You expect him to come back at the end because she goes to his grave at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you expect him to kind of come back behind her, but he doesn't. She just says, "Oh, you'd have loved that," and the film finishes. It's like,
Yeah.
well, actually, he probably would have been quite embarrassed, and you can just about hear him spinning in his grave. I think. At that point.
yeah, I can't believe he
what's
agreed,
wrong
can't.
with doing the classic hook where you leave it open to interpretation, where a silhouette appears in the background because it ends with a shot on her.
Yeah, because surely a smart thing to do with this, if it does well, which I'm sure it probably will.
Well, it's
do.
8, isn't it? So
Yeah.
we're obviously looking for a 9, 10.
Yeah, exactly. Is this surely is to go and do a mishmash of the two?
Of course, yeah.
It's to
exactly.
integrate. I mean, I thought that Matt Damon was in it for a little time,
No,
but he's not.
no,
right?
well, I didn't see
read
him
the
in
Matt
it.
Damon
Although
was in it.
absolutely astonishing performance by one James Corden.
Oh my word, God!
Of course, last seen or not seen, but last heard in Peter Rabbit, a particular favourite of yours, John.
Yeah,
It's
anything.
nothing to do with Peter Rabbit. I don't want it. We need to keep this podcast like user friendly. Like I'm not going to say anything.
I'll say he's terrible.
I don't like that he's everywhere. I don't understand it. I don't get it. He's evidently very big in America, but I don't. He's done very well. I'm not going to sit here and just like.
Well, it's
say
difficult
people
not to. It's difficult to step back and say, well, actually, is that not just because the British media don't like people who become famous, become successful? Well, actually, it's because James Corden's never done anything that I found particularly funny.
I just find
and
him
that's
very
why he fits into
obnoxious.
this
I don't-
film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think that's the case because I don't think anyone's got a problem with like Simon Pegg, and he's obviously broke in America, if you want to call it that, and he's doing well for himself, and full respect to the man.
But Simon Pegg kind of plays the loser, doesn't he? Whereas James Corden's got like he attempts bravado, and it falls flat because it's just like everyone in this film seems to have a relationship that's just implied. It's like, I'd know this person, and it's always just a throwaway sentence like, oh, do you remember this guy? Oh, and then he turns up, it's James Corden.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you for a while, and it's like, well, the audience aren't stupid. It's like, it's almost like you needed something at that point, and you were like, let's just get James Corden in to be this.
And the funny thing is, the reveals of the heist was still happening when he came in.
Yeah.
So it's like he's looking at CCTV and stuff, and he's figuring out the heist. Why is he doing it? Why not introduce someone at the beginning, like a cop who's got a vendetta with Bullock or something like that? Instantly, I'm more invested because I want to see how this relationship plays out.
The actual heist, when it's going on, you just think, why are you doing this? And then when it's explained why they're doing that, you're just like, well, that is silly. That's pointless. But they're trying to steal this necklace, but then it's worth $150 million or whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
So they put this kind of clasp on, which only can be unlocked by... Well, we don't know how it can be unlocked, but luckily Rihanna's sister is an expert at like this lock, how to kind of...
Rihanna's sister, who's not a character in the
Who's
film.
not a character in the film. Literally, she's like, oh, maybe my sister can help. Rings her sister. Yeah, I've seen that kind of thing before. Yeah, we'll sort that out. And then and it's like...
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
I think to be fair, it's a 3-star film at the end of the day.
I don't think it's a 3-star
There's
film.
nothing wrong with it. It's
less than
watchable. It's okay.
Is it always just?
I disagree, mate. I just think it's totally unwatchable. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's so misguided as a film. When you got that cast and you've got and you give them that script, which is written by Gary Ross.
I think
and it's written. It's
the
almost
problem
like
is the
Gary
script,
Ross has
isn't
written
it?
the bits that don't make sense, the rubbish
Yeah.
bits. And
Yeah.
it's almost like they brought the woman in to write the bits about the fashion, like the Vogue magazine scenes and all that. And it's just like, well, actually, like this isn't. At least with the Ghostbusters, the all-female Ghostbusters reboot, you know, the ending's terrible, but everything up to that, it works because of the kind of chemistry, even though it's not as good as it kind of could have been.
Yeah.
But in this, there's none of that. It's just like they're all sat in a room.
I think like I know what you're saying, but I just think as a throwaway film to go and watch, it's what is it, 90 minutes? Not much longer, is it? It's an hour and a half.
Oh, that's
As
not
a
too
throw-
bad.
As a throwaway film or whatever, there's nothing particularly wrong with it. But obviously by like everything about it is trying to be like Ocean's 11 to the point that it's called Ocean's 8 and it has to be Danny Ocean's kid sister, and that's where it's falling down.
I think with that though, like, I mean, well, as I said before, if you stick to that formula, it doesn't have to be, incredibly difficult to understand or complex. Just stick to that snappy editing, that smart heist where it twists at the end and you find out all the little bits.
Yeah.
And that's all you have to do.
But like the other thing is like for for something that's obviously female centric, which is great, and you know all that stuff. The woman's like main Sandra Bullock's main. Her main thing, because they do the same thing that they do in Ocean's 11, where you know George Clooney doesn't just want to rob the bank; he wants to rob the casino. He wants to rob the casino that Andy Garcia runs because he's with.
Does she have a love interest?
Yeah, well, no, but her love interest screwed her over. That's the reason she's inside.
Prison,
so she wants to frame him for the robbery. But the way it's done, it's really weird. Like, they do it in these tiny little flashbacks, like in a really awkward place of a film. And that's kind of all these little bits of like exposition that should be really funny and cool happen in really awkward places. Do you agree?
And it does. And he's not even like you don't watch it and say, actually, that guy's like, he put her in prison, but then you don't really care. Like,
no, you don't think, he's a smooth
whereas
criminal.
Garcia,
He deserves his
you're like,
comeuppance.
this guy's a twat. You know?
Yeah, and also
to see him
Andy
get his
Garcia and his
yeah.
Well,
I've got to hope this guy gets it.
She's got too many goals. Rob this diamond necklace, fine. Then there's something else which is a twist, which I won't spoil the plot, but something else happens as well. That's fine. That kind of makes it more interesting, arguably. Then it's, I want to screw over my ex, fine. But then at the end, like we've already said, it's her sat at her brother's grave saying, you would have loved it, insinuating to me, if that's your last line, that it was actually all really done to kind of like show your brother that you're like worthy of the Ocean name and all that kind of stuff. So what's your goal? Yeah, you've got like 3 different goals.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Like I just want to see a good story where you have where your aim is to do this and you go on a journey to achieve that. Not this is all happening, and while we're at it, let's try and get all these 7 other people little elements of story, but no more so than James Corden.
He had that, but it was well written. I mean, I don't like you talk about just the point I was kind of making with the female thing. It's more like, surely that makes her look weaker that she's going back to get revenge on him. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm chasing an ex, like trying to get revenge, it just makes me look like I'm hung up on it.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
You need to have an attachment to a man. It's that thing. Yeah, I agree.
Attachment to the man's no.
And it would never happen the other way.
I'm a strong woman. See you later, love.
This is completely unrelated, but that's why I've got a lot of time for Moana. Because Moana is not like, Moana just wants to, like, you know, lead her people and find out another way to survive, all that kind of stuff. And it's never she's a Disney princess, but she never needs to impress a man, and it's not about getting a husband, and it's not about, you know, getting someone that she needs to be with or impressing a man. It's all about her. So I think more people should watch Moana.
Well, actually,
you're welcome.
I agree. Yeah, if you're going to go and watch Ocean's 8, don't watch Moana.